Like, come on, but look, hey, look, my life together. I ain't got no time to argue with y'all. I already know how niggas be on the internet.
So, over time, I've taken issues with the various things in the Blue Archive community. It's a very different community than anything I've ever experienced before, and the situation it's in is, in my opinion, pretty unique. Maybe I just haven't been in enough fandoms, but I haven't seen one land in this spot before. So I ended up taking notes of all the things that bothered me and built arguments against them, and then recorded and edited all of them into a massive video. Actually, a couple of videos. The first batch were lore misconceptions, which made it obvious to me that no one talking about the game had actually played the story. Which is fine, but it's kinda ironic considering the community's supposed stance on gatekeeping. We hardcore gatekeep, yet no one seems to know the story. Kinda weird. Anyway, all those lore misconceptions got their own video, and all the more controversial and cultural issues made it into this crazy long video. But towards the end of editing this video, I realized, holy shit, I accidentally created a kind of cathartic manifesto, and this is completely useless in any way but preaching to the choir. So let's try this again, and this time try to keep it focused on the core issues instead of bogging it down with every little thing which annoys me. The video's a lot meaner than this one, even after I cut out a lot of the crazier lines. But it's probably more important to build bridges before you tear people a new one, so I'll be trying my best to actually be nice in this video. I actually don't really like try-hard edgy channels. I wasn't trying to be an asshole, I was just trying to be myself. But then I go watch a clean channel and I just feel like an edgy little shit. But before I complain about anything, I want to be positive and talk about the things which I love. This is fucking awesome. A fan animation adapting one of the game's best fights. One that I hope to see professionally animated one day. Also, made by an Indonesian talent. I have no connection to any Southeast Asian country, but I know a lot of the fans on the global side are from there, so it's nice to see their talent shine. Here's a person making fan songs. This one is a Vietnamese account. Great to see talent from the Vietnamese side of the community as well. You'll understand why I'm bringing attention to this later. Here's another cool 3D animation, and another one. All this great and original community content I love. The global community's content still pales in comparison to the Korean fan animations, but at least it's something. And this was fucking amazing. Although, even though this video was technically made in part for the global server, it's not exactly a product of the global community, so I'm not sure if it really counts. But the devs hinted at English original songs recently at Anime Expo, so it was really amazing to actually hear one so soon. This video made me pretty happy. But the factor of the global community mostly comes in here in the comment section, which are all mostly entirely normal, supportive, and good. And here we are, hinting at one of the biggest issues with the community. Don't get mad and turn off the video now, or you're being a pussy. Hear me out. I'm definitely not some hardline anti-gooner, but there's a lot more to this. So there's a big issue with the cult-like sexual reverence which compels people to oh so performatively express their sexuality for social reward. I'm talking about shit like this. Cunny posting under a wholesome, non-explicit art. It's totally inappropriate. And of course, it was posted by a minor. So many of the based cunny posters are minors. That community is full of minors. Look, I don't care about people liking lolis or idolizing loli characters on their profile, nor am I at all concerned with the lolicon as a sort of genre. Not all lolicon content is goon content, but even when it is, it's not really a concern of mine. I don't really care if you're yorking it to fucking toddler con or bestiality or whatever. I really do not care. It's fine as long as there's no real people involved. But I think we can at least acknowledge that when you get to the point that your sexuality is your whole personality, and you're having lolicon communities and lolicon Discord servers where all you talk about is how you love lolis, and you filter your friend circle based on whether or not they share your fetish, it's not a recipe for self-improvement, is it? Well, not everyone worries about things like that, that's fine. But the incessant ritualistic cunny posting and virtue signaling is cultish and barbaric. It's a religion, and those guys whose entire pages are them endlessly replying to different artworks on X, repeating the same dialogue of sexual expression. It reminds me of the fucking Warhammer guy whose entire life is making sure all 800,000 candles are lit. That's your life, dude? Seriously? Every day you just wake up and light candles, horny post? The same routine of sexual ritual every day? It's not good for you. Please stop. About these performative and public displays of sexuality, this behavior is able to propagate because of a narrative it's built on. The two main points of this narrative are the idea that it is somehow gatekeeping, and two, that we are replicating the based and superior Nihonjin. Let's start with the second one, and then we'll come back to the other one. So the truth is, no, the type of horny posting done by the JP community, and even the KR communities, is entirely different from what you see from the global community. If you don't believe me, I go over this extensively in the larger video. If you skip to the section, it's called something like JP and KR are not like this. But you don't need me to prove this to you. You can see it for yourself if you just open your eyes. You can watch any one of those recycled content comment award style tweet slap videos, like Tweets from the East, and you'll notice a pattern in how the Japanese player makes horny jokes is entirely different and much more creative than what you see from the global community. This, for example, is really funny without crutching on shock humor or overly explicit description. It's just a classic bait and switch. It's not a ritualistic repeat of keywords in a sexual expression. If this was instead tweets from the Southeast, it would not be so creative. It'd be the same fucking joke every time, with each repost bordering closer and closer to unironic pedophilia. If you catch any post from the Japanese or Korean fandoms before the English-speaking fans show up, be it a YouTube video or a fan art or whatever, take notice. Not a single comment from those fans is saying something overly explicit or performative. Instead, they all come from a place of genuine care about the characters in the game. And even when they do horny posts, it's with a lot more elegance. It's very evident on the soundtrack videos or the JP channel videos, where comments are generally genuine and good, until the English-speaking fan finds the video and just shits it up with buzzwords and retarded spam. I'm sorry, but one tweet from Doron Tabi, a confirmed Korean pedophile, does not represent the entire Japanese otaku scene. So all the people coping like this, that they're just replicating the based and superior Nihonjin, it's but a barbaric approximation projected onto them. It's weeabooism, an obsession with a misconception of Japanese culture. Here's just a random example of this. You can test this on literally any video. It's just a random video featuring an official cute Hoshino animation. You can just scroll through the comments and notice. If you see an English comment, it's like 9 out of 10 chance of being dirty. Check a Korean comment and there's a 9 out of 10 chance of it being something wholesome or normal. The ratios are way off. The global community is nothing like the Eastern side. You can't deny the stats. Here's just some random art that I stumbled upon, and this one is actually quite lewd. I want you to notice that the Japanese replies are all normal. The only reply repeating the Holy Scripture is this one. Check his profile, and Indonesian weeaboo who is trying to pick up Japanese chicks over X. It's always a weeaboo, never a genuine Japanese person. Again, infinite examples of this. There's more in my other video. Go ahead and check it for yourself. In fact, I'd love for someone to chart it all out on a giant graph. Someone could do this by just scrolling through Twitter or YouTube and checking, the comments on Blue Archive related content and just check where the poster is from every single time. Chart it all out. You're gonna get a 99% chance that any ritualistic cunny poster is from Southeast Asia, Russia sometimes, the Middle East, sometimes South America, usually not America, and almost never Japan or Korea. In fact, NamuWiki, which is a sort of opinionated Korean wiki website, has one of the most brutal criticisms of Yisaku-san that I've ever read. It literally says, "There has been an increase in the number of haters who criticize him as a hipster or artsick, impoverished sexual fanatic who doesn't know how to write a screenplay if it doesn't create an impoverished story with the central character, or as a backwards compatible copy of Nasu." Okay, that was badly translated, but they're calling him Discount Nasu, and they're criticizing his degenerate style of writing. And that's a criticism coming from Korean players. That's not something you could ever say on global without getting ripped apart. Moving on to the next phase of the argument then. Well, maybe we are nothing like the Japanese community, but we have to act this way to gatekeep. Yeah, well. That entire long video is a takedown of that idea from every possible angle. But let's take some time here to address how it's a flawed way of thinking at its core. So, back when the Steam page for the game was created, I saw this post from the community tab. It said something like, are tourists that bad or something like that? The answer is yes. Anyway, the first reply that I saw was this amazing video about the degradation of fandoms and why gatekeeping is so important. I want us to take a look at it. And by the way, this little video did not form my opinion. I was thinking this way for a long time before I found this. Okay, so step one, the original fans play the game. They are colored in black. The original fans include their friend, referred to as Green. He's more of a casual fan, but he's respectful, so they allow him to stay. Green then does anti-gatekeeping by spreading word of the hobby around, which attracts secondaries referred to as Browns. Browns enjoy the surface level and superficial aspects of the hobby, filtered down to them through Green's social media posts, but they don't learn the proper etiquette of the hobby due to the lack of social pressure by not being outnumbered. Step 4. Clout chasing social grifters, referred to as pinks, show up, using the hobby as a skin suit to virtue signal and beg for attention. Step 5. The low IQ followers of the pinks, referred to as reds, arrive. The reds are similar to the pinks, but they're a bit more stupid and need the pinks to act as leaders and think for them. Basically, in our situation, the pinks are going to be like big Twitter profiles, and the reds are going to be all the people sucking them off in the replies. And at this point, the fandom is pretty much destroyed, as the majority of people claiming to be a fan are only doing so for social reasons. And the original players are phased out. As you can see, everyone's just kind of hanging around. The actual hobby has become completely secondary, possibly through a social shift towards frowning on elitism within the community or insulting the old fans for daring to care about their hobby being changed. Right, so let's take a look at some of the comments on this Blue Archive Steam incident video. And by the way, you can find comments like this all over the Cunny Slop channels. Dude, I don't even play BA, but I follow because I always crack up with anything this community does. I don't even play Blue Archive, but the community keeps me entertained instead. And many, many more variations of that. There are infinite examples of this sentiment online. And wow, doesn't that sound exactly like the final step of fandom degradation? The best part about Blue Archive is the community, this guy says, not the game. So we're admitting that the actual game itself is completely irrelevant and we're only here for the community. We're admitting that the title of Blue Archive fan is not a description of reality, but instead a skin suit worn for social purposes. You're only here for social status. The hobby itself is secondary, so you're a secondary then. Right now I'm showing you one of my favorite examples of this, where these two guys were in an argument in the YouTube comments of a video, and one of them mentions that he plays a game every day, and the other guy went full mask off and started questioning him, why would he play every day? Revealing that he himself doesn't play the game, or else he would know that everything is on a daily cycle. He goes on to say playing every day is a bad camouflage for a tourist, as well as, you're the type this gatekeeping is aiming for. Isn't that interesting? This gatekeeping. You, the person who plays every day, needs to be gatekept by this gatekeeping. Oh, that's so interesting. So going back to the fandom degradation video, I think it's pretty obvious that this supposed gatekeeping movement, which the supposed fandom is so proud of, actually comes from the pinks and the reds. It's a subversive movement, not concerned with protecting the actual hobby itself, but increasing the social status of those grifting over it. Updoots are everything. It's explicitly anti-people enjoying the game for what it is, and only demands that you swear allegiance to it by saying the holy words of cunny, rape, pregnancy, or else you must be some kind of tourist. At this point, you might say, well, maybe we're nothing like the Japanese or Korean fan bases. And sure, we're not gatekeeping, but at least we're having fun. What's wrong with that? Well, now you'd be making the anti-gatekeeping argument, which is kind of funny, but I would agree with the idea that it is okay to just be silly and have fun. Until it becomes a sexual ritual. The only reason that Blue Archive horny posting can be funny is because it's not a porn game. It's because it's like out of pocket to go monkey mode over an armpit, or the tightness of Akira's pants, or whatever other subtle sexual appeal the characters have, that it's funny. Disproportionate response is funny. Exaggeration is funny. But when it gets to the point that it's not a joke anymore and it just becomes a ritual of repeating your sexual desires to your friend group, it's just weird now. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you're doing group masturbation sessions. I mean, you're already super public with your like craziest fetishes. It's not a very big jump from there. I am very pro gatekeeping. But the point of gatekeeping was to maintain the purity of the hobby and avoid lowbrow, watered down community interaction. If your form of gatekeeping instead results in that, or results in the need to paint your door with a lamb's blood, how is that gatekeeping? If anyone can simply get into the community for having the right opinion about a sexual fetish, how is that gatekeeping a video game? The number one criteria for gatekeeping should be whether or not they care about the hobby itself. And when you start seeing all these retarded NPC outsiders on your side, that should be a pretty big red flag. This is a tourist. This is literally a tourist. But of course, the reds and pinks are all NPCs too, so I guess it makes sense they'd be on the same side, really. There's no point in trying to convince them they're subversive. It's what they do. Lie, pretend, and farm clout. The most important thing to the Twitter user is social status. Big Twitter accounts are people infected with a brain poison. They're all audience captured. Every single based and you're saying what the others won't is addicting and reinforcing. The word based is basically a word used to describe your approval for something that is good, but people just aren't ready to hear it because it's controversial. And it creates a sort of radicalization feedback loop where the host of the virus, the big Twitter account, is rewarded by the followers with social status for leading them further into darkness.
And you're all mad, and there's 2 or 3 people who go, yeah! And then I think, oh, you know, that's kind of an interesting response. And then, you know, I lay out a couple more ideas, and some of them don't get any response, and others, you know, people perk right up. And I'm not stupid, and I'm trying to get the bloody attention of the crowd. And so, if I do that 50 times, the crowd's going to tell me an awful lot about what they want, especially if I'm willing to follow them. And I can do that easily because, especially if I can start to work the crowd a little bit, because I can capitalize on their capitalize on their emotions and the display of that emotion, and I can learn to play that. And then that turns into a positive feedback loop. So that's another reason why you should be careful what you say, and why you say it. You know, and why you're looking for attention, and all of those things, and actually what's motivating you, and actually what's motivating the people who are listening to you. Because God only knows where it might go if you're not careful. Well, actually, we do know where it goes if you're not careful. And it's not pretty, that's for sure. And to think that we've learned anything from that, it's like, no, that's not right. We haven't learned a damn thing from it.
It's one of the most disturbing and exploitative warpings of human nature you can witness. It's so disgusting. I hate Twitter and social media. And content farm channels are a cancer on fandoms. Alright, let's get into the main part of this video. So often do these grifting Twitter accounts virtue signal hard anti-tourist sentiment while fitting the definition so perfectly themselves. They have no real investment in Blue Archive. They have no concern for the direction of the story or the quality of the total assaults. Oh, but they have the correct opinion on culture war slop. Go fuck yourself. I don't give a shit about the opinions of a compulsive tweeter, filtered down from their favorite streamer or the collective consciousness of their cringy online circles. Every single viral tweet is a net loss of brain cells, as their mindless zombie followers get delivered to them just enough information paired with the correct opinion to confirm their bias. Sad. These are the same people who would harass artists like Kin Zaibatsu and accuse her of being a pedophile over a drawing. All gone over more extensively in the other video. You can tell just what kind of terminally online losers these people are. Just because other tourists complain about things like lolis doesn't mean you need to build your entire identity around it. It's indescribably cucked the way some people let antis or tourists define a role for them, and then they play it like a good little puppet until they themselves become someone who doesn't enjoy anime for love of the genre, but on the basis of whether or not it reinforces their worldview. I'm talking about those people who swear by utterly mid-eroges but scoff at actually good anime just because hood weebs or some other outgroup likes it, as they always will because legitimately good series usually have varied fan bases. Just look at the Bible. Just like the drooling shonen tard who only cares about flashy animation, these people only care about superficial surface level aspects of anime without a care for how it ties into the genre as a whole. And just like the shonen fan, they scoff at any anime that strays from their pigeonholed taste. These are the same type of person, reflected in a mirror. This anime has lollies, ew, I can't watch this pedo shit. Wait, this anime is just masculinity and edginess? Ew, I can't watch this normie slop. And what about Dragon Ball? The first few episodes have Bulma swinging around her panties and flashing her bare pussy while a half-naked 12-year-old fights a dinosaur. Ugh, this is obviously some pedo shit. I can't watch this. This show can't be good. And what about Cowboy Bebop? Oh man, isn't that show really popular with normies? Like, wasn't there some weird gender nonsense going on with one of the characters? And there's barely any fan service. Ugh, this is obviously some normie slop. I can't watch this. This show can't be good. Tourists come in many shapes, and they're constantly evolving to subvert your hobbies. Anyone who can't enjoy a series for what it is, but instead must filter it through their personal bias before deciding whether or not they can rep it for social status, is a fake fan. No one in Japan acts like this, in case you're thinking that you're replicating them. What kind of community do you have when the majority of outspoken fans only play or rep the game performatively for social status? When Blue Archive is the cool, edgy game to be into, and every socially grifting X account wants a piece of the pie to feed their ego or their Twitter Blue payout. Yeah, so not a gate-kept community, quite the opposite. I feel like I need a new word for these people. Secondary works, but it doesn't hit as hard as it used to. Tourist fits perfectly. I mean, they're just here to see the sights. They only enjoy the surface level and flashy bits of the culture, without really understanding any of it. But it's tough because that word has been misappropriated. For now, I'll just keep calling them that. There's actually a South Park episode about exactly these kinds of people, where there's this clan of Hawaiian tourists who seek to replicate the superficial aspects of Hawaiian culture rituals without actually understanding any of it or actually being native, all while believing that they are native Hawaiians.
Can I help you with anything?
Yeah, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go.
Okay, were you with a cruise ship or a land tour group?
Oh, I'm not a tourist. I'm a native Hawaiian.
Butterscotch?
Yeah?
Welcome home, young Keiki. Your parents said you would be coming for your ceremony. Who's this?
Oh, this is my friend, Kenny.
Butters, Native Hawaiians don't really approve of haoles coming to their ceremonies.
Oh, please, if it weren't for him, I couldn't have come.
The nature of the public-facing Blue Archive community is so interesting because it's essentially a complete inversion of the game itself. I know this is a sort of cliche criticism, like, how can a bad person like a good thing? Like how a game like Undertale, which has a generally positive message, has insane fans who harass people towards suicide. There's a commonly recognized pattern online that the more cutesy the property, the more toxic the fanbase. And as much as secondaries might try to lie about it, Blue Archive is no exception. The game totally represents itself wholesomely, and every single statement by the developers ever has supported that idea. They wanted to create a bright world to set themselves apart from so many other military-themed gacha games at the time. Rather than good characters in a dark world, Blue Archive is about a bright world with flawed or even evil characters. Kinda like real life. But maybe Blue Archive gets a little bit of a pass on the bad fanbase charge, because I know for a fact a majority of the toxic fans you see don't play the game at all. Can you really say the fanbase is bad if the bad people aren't actually fans? I don't know, maybe. Some people believe the lie that Blue Archive is an adult game, when in reality the game is rated 12+ in Japan. Actually, if you view the Japanese client with your Play Store set in English, it actually puts it at E10 and up, which brings the age even lower. You can find plenty of younger Japanese fans talking about why they love the game online, not to mention all the minors on our side of the internet who love it. Blue Archive Global has an M rating now, but it actually originally had a T rating, and it was increased due to an obviously targeted attack from the Korean rating board, which very famously led to the Korean players getting the whole fucking agency shut down for corruption. Isn't it interesting how when Blue Archive is misrepresented in Korea, the Korean fans actually jump to its defense? Anyway, Nexon's initial response to this was to release a second, censored version of the game, doubling down on a lower age rating always being the game's target. For whatever reason though, Blue Archive's increased age rating remains to this day, while Azure Lane and Nikkei get to keep their T ratings, which is fucking insane. Blue Archive just announced a Lego set that I'm probably actually going to buy from the same construction toy company with sets like this. I'm not falling for the idea that Blue Archive can only be enjoyed by adults. It doesn't have any kind of content in it that I wouldn't have seen in one of the anime or RPGs I played as a kid, which is why I love it in the first place. Oh, but what about the one time Sensei licked Iori? Yeah, and Master Roshi was a fucking freak that would put Sensei to shame, and I was watching that show when I was like 9. There are plenty of franchises specifically targeted at children, like My Little Pony, which have huge adult fandoms. It doesn't make it an adult franchise though. Again, rated 12 up in Japan. But how is the secondary fanbase an inversion of the game itself? Well, what Blue Archive is about is not up for debate. The game tells you pretty explicitly, like so explicitly that they title drop the game with annotations over the core themes of the arc. It's not subtle at all. As Hifumi states in the climax of Volume 3, the story of our youth and school days. The name of the anime opening is literally Seishun no Archive. Seishun meaning youth. The other themes of the game being as Sensei constantly repeats in every single aura farming moment he gets. The responsibility of adults and never giving up on the students. And the beauty of it is not that it comes out of obligation, but of choice. The choice you make by playing the game. You have free time and you can do with it whatever you want. But by choosing to log in and play the story, you've made the decision that the students must be protected. Yes, it's extremely cheesy and meta and shameless. But that's actually what the game is about. There's a reason why a tablet with an anime girl on it is the most powerful weapon in the story. And why Sensei literally pulls out his credit card when he can't beat a fight. All of the interviews with the developers, and especially the main writer, back this up. Obviously, the whole reveling in the sexual abuse of the characters is not something the game approves of. This isn't me projecting my own biases onto a disconnected fictional world. These expectations obviously exist in the story itself. You can't have a proper seishun if you're destroying innocence, after all. Isaku-san, the previous main writer, has stated in an interview that in Blue Archive, youth must be protected. The player has a choice of why, but not if. And if the player did decide that protecting youth wasn't necessary, that's a failure. Probably because it would essentially mean quitting the game, and therefore permitting the bad endings. The game isn't vague at all with what those who would abuse the students deserve. When it comes to the worst offenders, spoilers, Beatrice gets fucking Dr. Manhattaned, and Basement Dweller is made to grovel in a dimensional prison cell for eternity. Teru Shiroko appears to have beaten every single surviving member of Gematria within an inch of their life, as all of them are heavily damaged or changed when they reappear. And the president of Kaiser gets thrown out of a helicopter. Every single character who manipulates or abuses the students for their own gain or pleasure gets what they deserve. But that's not to say that Sensei is a perfect person. He did lick Iori, which was a little selfish of him. Even though it's mostly played for laughs, I actually think it ties into the story, because as stated by Miyako in Sora's side story, it's because Sensei is a flawed person that the students are able to let their guard down around him. It's because he's so obviously not the type of suspicious person who would be overly nice to hide their true intentions that he can be trusted. And he would never ask the students to do anything weird. He's always on the student's side. And all this is coming from Miyako, who initially hated him. Sensei obviously has a lot of feelings about his own inadequacy. After all, in the bad timeline, shown in Volume F, he outright failed. He knows he's capable of failure, and just how catastrophic the consequences would be. He tries to save the students, but must constantly be saved by them. Another theme mentioned by Isaku-san in that interview. Sensei genuinely wishes he could have been there to save Yume, mirroring the player's desires. And for a majority of that chapter, he's out of commission, a guilt which likely weighs upon him. Especially in the Decagrammaton volume, he's totally conflicted on bringing the game development department with him to the Glacial Sea and directly putting them in danger. If anyone were to get hurt, it wouldn't be like the usual situation where the student gets himself in danger in a bad spot and he could just swoop in and save the day. Instead, it'd be a situation where he put them in danger by bringing them there. It would be his fault if they got hurt. Of course, Arona and the students would tell him it was ours and the game development department's decision to come, but he could never use that type of thinking to forgive himself if anything happened. He still feels guilty for risking their safety, even if it is to save the world. And so, the irony of taking Blue Archive's shameless yet bright form of escapism into a beautiful world, and the flawed benevolence of Sensei's character, and then inverting it into a pedophilic sex fantasy that would put rants to shame, cannot be understated. I don't know about you, but when I log into the game, I'm greeted with Fubuki's bright smile, and probably the last thing going through my head is, how can I ruin this beautiful moment by brutally raping this child? Even so, I don't mind anyone's warped fantasies or headcanons. I would never say something like, you can't have that kind of fantasy. It's none of my business, really. And I enjoy plenty of adult fan content myself, be it ultraviolent or sexual content. And I know a lot of the fan base is horny teenagers, and getting freaky on the hood of a car is a normal desire for them. But for me, I'm really too old for that. I don't want to get freaky with Fubuki. Actually, if anything, I like to live vicariously through Fubuki and remember the time when I was able to just chill and eat donuts without worrying about getting fat. Regardless of your age, I don't care about your sexual fantasies. The reason it's an issue now is because of the unholy combination of headcanons with the idea that it's just gatekeeping. You can't gatekeep on the basis of a headcanon, especially one that the story itself disapproves of. Blue Archive, hentai dojins, two different things. And two different communities, even if there is a lot of overlap. You can't expect every single Blue Archive fan to be all in on things which are outside the game. People who do that ruin fandoms. I saw this video show up recently, and I usually try not to click on VTuber clips because they're usually just really scummy and with completely fake titles and thumbnails, which VTubers can't call out because they are directly benefiting from them. But I did click on this one. It's just a clip where Mint mentions reading a Blue Archive hentai dojin, and of course all the comments are some variation of, based, she's one of us, because she read porn? I mean, if by one of us you mean someone who enjoys goon content, then yeah. But if you mean Blue Archive fan, absolutely not. This isn't what qualifies her. Playing the game is what qualifies her. In fact, I think Mint probably has a very similar appeal to Blue Archive, which is probably why she likes it. She's not just a cam girl who bought or fucked her way to a $5,000 model, like so many modern VTubers tend to be. Nor is she an annoying, edgy little shit like me. She actually serves to brighten the viewer's day with her charm and relatability. And sure, plenty of people make pornographic fan art of her, but if she ever explicitly went down that route with her brand, surely her appeal would change, wouldn't it? It definitely wouldn't be the same. To say that a fan must be invested in pornographic content above all else to be a true fan is so completely backwards. That's not gatekeeping, it's subversion. I've always been pro-gatekeeping, but I feel pretty fucking stupid that I never realized the technique could be co-opted by tourists. How naive I was. Gatekeeping is meant to keep the hobby purely focused on the hobby itself, and not influenced by outsider movements or other fandoms. For a time, Blue Archive really was the perfect little Garden of Eden, where the fans genuinely cared about the game and the story, and I didn't have to hear shit about how whatever was problematic. No one complained about representation, or how a character's skin was drawn too light, or how the Abydos characters should have darker skin because they're supposed to be Egyptian, or how there needs to be better plus-sized representation because Izumi's body is not realistic, or how this character is actually a trans allegory. And if you tried that shit, you would get negative traction. People just accepted the game for what it was without pushing anything like that. But of course, now you get to hear people complaining that a character like Akemi doesn't belong in the game. Or that Blue Archive is exclusively a goon game, only for those who goon, despite the game being more tame than even Grand Blue, never mind Nikkei or Azure Lane, which still have fans who take the game seriously. And these complainers are always people who don't even play the game, or have minimal investment and only play performatively to avoid cognitive dissonance. Usually when I make this argument, I bring up Warhammer and the absurdity of an Emperor memer, thinking that they take precedence over a tabletop player, or that they have the right to gatekeep anyone. Or I would bring up the old Toho fandom's crusade against secondaries, who only read the wiki and dojins and can't even 1cc on normal. But I thought of another example recently, which is Dragon Ball. I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I know. The niche series Dragon Ball. But Dragon Ball is another one of those properties with tons of high-quality fan content, like entire fan animated movies, and so many parodies. If you had to decide if you were hell-bent on gatekeeping, who do you think is the truer Dragon Ball fan? The guy watching Goku vs. Saitama full movie on YouTube? Or the guy watching the actual show or reading the manga? You would never apply this logic of prioritizing the consumption of fan content over source material in any other fandom. To say that someone must read hentai dojins or be invested in pornography to be a fan of Blue Archive is ridiculous. Even if hentai dojins are technically a fan expansion on fan service, which is already a part of the game, bringing it to the extreme, so are the Dragon Ball fanworks on YouTube. That's what all fan content is, an expansion on some appeal which the property already had. Regardless, the only true criteria which matters in gatekeeping Blue Archive is still, do they play the game? Anything else is a farce and a subversion. And even if you have a really strong account like level 90, do some raids or whatever, it's still not a pass to act as a cancer on the fandom and push false narratives about the game, or try to change the game to suit your specific secondary preference. I was thinking a bit about fandoms and I realized, just like Blue Archive and its dojins, Dragon Ball did have a huge fan work that, in my opinion, did net damage to the community, and that was Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Now, I don't hate Team 4 Star or anything. Looking back at it today, there was a lot of cringe. Personally, I was always more of a fan of SSJ 9K, but TFS still had a lot of genuinely funny parts. That said, back in the day, it was so common to find people in the Dragon Ball spaces who probably hadn't watched the actual show in like a decade, but Dragon Ball Z Abridged was fresh in their minds and they genuinely thought various plot holes and jokes from that show were canon. I think TFS is most widely blamed for pushing the Goku is a bad father meme, even if they didn't create it. And for a while, it was like you couldn't discuss Dragon Ball at all without someone butting in with a quote from the parody, which you'd already heard a million times. It got really annoying, and over time, I think disdain for that parody for Team 4 Star grew a lot over time. If Blue Archive continues on without losing its way, I think that could happen here too, as the more goon-focused fans lose interest, leaving only the genuine fans. But it's hard to say because Dragon Ball is like literally 10 times as old as Blue Archive. Fandom turmoil and secondaries dominating discussion are just par for the course of all communities. It's really nothing special. But there's a difference between just being generally cringe and retarded and then being performatively sexual. Fucking Dragon Ball was more explicit with the lowly fan service in Blue Archive, and yet that's obviously not the core of the community, even if there are a lot of fans who love that aspect. Fan service is like frosting on a cake. I don't think licking up all the frosting makes you a real cake eater. It's also very interesting how the Blue Archive fandom managed to pull the wool over people's heads with its fake gatekeeping. I've never seen anything like this where the tourists actually trick both themselves and others. What an incredibly effective technique. I really gotta hand it to them. It's almost beautiful, like a judo throw. Usually fandom takeovers come like a tsunami with overwhelming force, but this is like some fucking guerrilla warfare type shit. They say they're pro-gatekeeping, but they don't actually care about maintaining the hobby or anything like that. Instead, their number one concern is having flame wars with their annoying opposites, which is how they justify themselves. You wouldn't want to see a gender, queer, trans, lesbian, communist policing the community, would you? Nope, that's why I was grateful that the game had the community it did 3 years ago. So then you need us to do the same thing, but on the other side. No, fucking no. Just leave the game alone, please. No culture war bullshit. Kivotos was supposed to be insulated from all this, come on. Your whole personality should not be 1, your sexual preference, or 2, only exist in reference to your opposition. As is typical, if you can tell someone's sexuality with but a glance at their profile, you know that there's someone you can immediately dismiss as not worth considering. But good people don't give enough of a shit about terminally online nonsense to get involved, so it seems inevitable that no matter what, you end up with activists dominating fandoms. Okay, now I'm gonna touch on the demographics of this issue, because with the type of behavior displayed by the online fandom, well, all of this has happened before. Who remembers Bob's in Vegana? A now 10-year-old meme which acknowledges how, certain types of people seem to act differently on the internet than what was socially expected at the time. Maybe it's because those regions joined late and they didn't have time to build up an internet etiquette before centralized social media became a thing. Either way, it's a cultural difference. The point is, the behavior of shameless sexual expression without a care as to whether or not it's situationally appropriate is a foreign phenomena, most commonly around this general area. Actually, I'd go further west and probably just throw all of the Muslim world in there too. There's no point in hiding it. We know the game is popular in Southeast Asia. You see so many Southeast Asian usernames whenever something weird is happening. We have the official stats to show this, and 9 out of 10 times you see horny posting where it's inappropriate, or if you see extremely performative and borderline pedophilic behavior, it's always a Southeast Asian or Arabic username. Every fucking time. And I hate it because there's so many awesome and talented Indonesians and such in the community that I feel really bad for them. I know there's some anti-Filipino memes that go around, but honestly, I think it's much more commonly Indonesia, and that sucks. But the first step to fixing that issue is acknowledging it, so I'd much rather just be honest. I really hate bad actors like this and all the other lukewarm take accounts socially grifting every day over every little issue, making complete cope posts like this. The Western BA fandom, really? Name one thing a Western BA fan has ever done to you. What did some fucking retarded nobody with 3 likes reply to you with an utterly asinine rage bait? Anything that's comparable to anything the Genshin community has done? You fucking retard. I get that this person is likely some brand of autistic and I shouldn't be so mean to them, but these types of people make Indonesia look awful. You think I'm Indonesian, I swear I'm not. I'm just trying to build good relations. Look, it's no secret that Islam is not looked fondly upon over here in the US of A. The occasional secular Muslim immigrant is fine, but when I see it's always some Southeast Asian Muslim or Arabic username being so performatively pedophilic online over a video game, usually in broken English, or idolizing confirmed pedophiles like Doron Tabi, it's really not doing you guys any favors. It's quite ironic when they complain that Yuri is degenerate while holding up harems of children. I'm not saying lolicon is pedophilia at all. I don't subscribe to that idea, and I explain it more in the longer video, but no one on the JP or KR sides is so performatively sexual. Don't bother gaslighting me with some outlier tweet. Open your fucking eyes. I already proved it earlier in the video. I go into it extensively in the other video. Even when the Eastern fandom does horny post, they're a lot more creative than ritualistically spamming keywords that guarantee likes like their biblical verses. Nor do they so frequently cross the line into genuine reverence and pedophilic fantasy, and nor do they have a religion that approves of it. Do not tell me it's ironic. First, I want you to ask anyone behaving this way, are you being ironic? You're not getting a yes. You will never get a yes. Have you ever seen this meme? This explains it perfectly. I want you to Google irony poisoning. No, not iron poisoning, irony poisoning. If you're like a super mega gooner, you need to be careful. Don't dig yourself too far, okay? Because if you cross that line, you're not coming back the same. You cannot stare into the goon abyss without losing something. When you're all alone in your room, dirty clothes and trash all over your desk and floor, stains on the wall, 10 nuts in, spending your weekend shooting blanks, you're going to start to think about the things you lost. I don't care about horny posting, but there's a difference between doing it like a civilized person and just going goon, sex with children, rape, like an Indian who just discovered Facebook. Irony poisoning will come for you, I'm telling you. I will once again ask you what kind of person you are if you have to filter your friend group based on your fetish. The worst of where this goes can be seen in examples like this. This is a real ooey profile picture, unironically defending pedophilia. This is just one example. I go into a lot more depth on actual pedos in the other video. Even so, I wouldn't say that this is like the norm at all. Like I said, this is just the worst of it. But it makes sense when you understand cunny culture as a cult. People at the lower levels of cults don't have the secret knowledge of the higher members, and might even dismiss what they hear as malicious rumors. There's plenty of examples like this. Like even very high-ranking Scientologists were unaware that it was actually based on a sci-fi story about alien ghosts and volcanoes and ancient wars. There are actually people way deep into the cunny cult who are all in on, yeah, we are pedos, but when you really think about it, age of consent is just a Judeo-psyop enforced onto young men to deprive them of the wives they deserve. If you stay in the cult long enough, eventually they're going to drag you in that direction. It's not happening, always shifts into it is happening, and it's a good thing. This is why you should really never get involved in any kind of vice-focused community, whether it's drugs or sex or whatever, because they always drag you deeper and deeper. A bit of responsible recreational use is fine, but holy shit, you need to be careful. You can listen to interviews of people who have left cults, and you'll commonly hear things like, it was a community where I felt like I belonged. Everyone was so supportive. I was finally able to find people like myself who shared common interests. We didn't think it was a cult. The outsiders just didn't get it. Yep, that sounds exactly like every single lolicon community. And those cults like Scientology were usually built not on vices, although sex cults are very common, but more commonly on things like spirituality and self-betterment. I think self-betterment cults generally rob people of their money, and degeneracy-based cults usually rob people of their soul. The way the echo chamber is built starts with lolicon generally being frowned upon, so people who are into it fear rejection and so they self-insulate. That's how you get these outwardly toxic and defensive lolicon communities. They fear rejection and constant ridicule, so they build echo chambers out of defense, and then constantly reflect hate for outsiders, radicalizing both themselves and the people against them. Radicalization continues until it reaches full-on cult status, where members take offense to even the tiniest bit of dissent. And then, just like every sexually based cult, it ends up becoming a pride thing, where they need to make sure everyone knows about their preferences so they can feel a sense of liberation after society has shunned them for so long. We know from that whole Mr. Cynical situation that lolicon pedos do exist. It's not some myth as much as people like to gaslight and pretend that it is. Mr. Cynical was one of those people who never shuts up about lolis, who made an entire Why Lolicon is Not Pedophilia video essay, only to get caught screwing child prostitutes in Thailand a couple years later. Not to mention the Blue Archive fans in the Twitter circles who get outed as pedos all the time. But again, I'm reluctant to refer to those people as fans when they only rep it for fashion. Okay, we're nearing the end of the video, so I can say now, haha, you thought this video was going to be complaining about how the community was full of toxic and misogynistic bigots who are all racist. But actually, if the community was more racist, we might actually be in a better spot. Joking, I'm joking. Until the irony poisoning comes for me, that is. Look, I'm not the one who brought up politics first. It's just kind of what you get whenever there's fandom drama with this game. So it's easier if I just take the gloves off instead of fighting with one hand behind my back. Okay, so I failed to archive this and it's gone now. So I'll just tell you what it was. As you can see, here's the deleted reply. It was a post from this guy, who was a pagan grifter. No, I'm not joking. And he wasn't a Blue Archive player, he just wore it for the fashion. The account is nuked now, which means he either got outed as a pedophile or the paychecks for whatever intelligence agency he works for dried up. Or both. By the way, this is why it's hard to talk about pedophiles in the Weeb Grifter circles, because every time one of them gets outed, everyone involved deletes all their accounts. Anyway, the post was like, Grok, AI generate this with Israeli flags, along with the image. Here's the discount version as this red tried to follow in their daddy's footsteps. I want to be cool too. Really? The Jews did Yuri. Real criticism of Israel is discounted by idiots like this, you know? These damn pagans. Look, I'm not religious. I like Christians for the most part. I don't really like any other religions. Shinto's kind of cool, you know? Freaking pagans, man. You can't do shit anymore without people blaming it on the Jews. Stub your toe, Jews did it. You can't draw Yuri, you can't have waifus. You can't even like Jesus anymore because, I mean, when you really think about it, what was Jesus? So are you sure this whole religion of his wasn't just a slave morality psyop meant to control people and bring them under the chosen people? Fuck yeah, joked about extremist online politics and current events in a video about a gacha game. I am totally sane. That's just what you get when you click on an hour-long rant about a fandom for a lowly game. You think normal people give a shit about any of this? No fucking way. Ugh, I seriously wonder if I should keep this in the video. Okay, look. I do think we have enough edgy political VTubers, but I just find this stuff too fucking funny not to talk about. Pagans and Christians and all these religious conflicts they're fucking hilarious. Also, I didn't start this. I think everyone knows it's just kind of what you get when it comes to drama in this community. Anything happens, it's you're a bigot, you're a Nazi, you're woke, you're a Jew. Whenever some culture war nonsense comes from one of my hobbies, especially otaku culture, it's never genuine members of the hobby arguing about it, but instead these like roaming culture war mercenaries, perpetually in search of their next flame war. The other thing is they're almost always foreign and yet like endlessly tweet about American politics, American current events, taking the most extreme positions possible on either side, always. That's suspicious. Twitter like prioritizes showing you these accounts, which will then subliminally form your perception. And at least from where I'm standing, it's like all foreign influence. Are we sure this isn't like a foreign intelligence psyop? Damn, I just want to grill. I just want to stop seeing social grifters when I'm looking towards the community of one of my favorite games. But the English-speaking, quote, fan is so concerned in posturing for social status from anonymous teenagers over the internet. Nothing about the hobby matters. It's just, what can I say to get me likes? You literally can't make this shit up. Look, this is the image of tourism. Here's Japan. Here's all the quiet, well-spoken, genuine Japanese fans. And then you have all the foreigners screaming their heads off. I love Funni. That's what Japan is all about. Am I right, guys? This is the Funni nation. The pedo nation. God's chosen land of sex with kids. I'm so fucking cool. Just like my idol, Donon Tabi. This shit is so fucking lame. But back to the whole Jews did Yuri and Akemi thing. I don't really care about these countries that could literally not be further away from me. And that's not me trying to be like edgy or like a contrarian. It's just like a hierarchy of needs thing. Here I am. Yeah, I don't really have time to care about whatever is happening in the Middle East or whatever. So all I'm gonna say is, 1, If you actually are concerned with Israel's actions, blaming everything on them discredits genuine criticism of Israel and is just a net negative for your movement. And two, I never thought I'd say this, but I've seen so much actual anti-Semitism lately that I'm starting to think that the Holocaust could have actually happened. Let's be clear, this person doesn't give a shit about Blue Archive. It's a social grift for them. Whatever makes them look cool, whatever the edgy thing to be into is, they wear it for the fashion. They're a culture war mercenary who's too lazy to even pump out some YouTube opinion slop. Their only interest is attacking people to increase their social status. This is the same type of person who would complain about drawing a character the wrong color, or the wrong ship, or they'd tell you, actually, Blue Archive is totally socialist. It's making fun of you, chud. Only this person would be on the opposite side aesthetically. Aesthetically, but not ideologically, because honestly, the ideology is the same. And looking at their profile, it seems they're probably just as far down the lolicon slippery slope as Mr. Cynical was. This is the type of person who I doubt is just a lolicon. I'm really complaining about all the Weeb Grift accounts you find on Twitter now. I could name names, but they don't need the ego boost. If their heads grow any bigger, they might explode. You know the ones, blue check marks, incentivized to rally rage on Twitter because it makes them more money than getting a real job where they live. Tweeting 8 times a day about culture war slop. They're always studying Japanese but never actually know it. And they pretend to be these hardcore gatekeepers for anime, but they never watch it for what it is anymore. They just wear it for the fashion. I kind of feel bad for them because I think once upon a time they were genuine anime fans. They've just been brain-rotted by culture war combat, and they've gotten lost on the way, and their criteria for gatekeeping has just become, do you watch anime exclusively for the fan service? As if that's all it should be about. Anime is this huge genre that's been covering, fan service, but also martial arts, mecha, magical girls, superheroes, and my favorite, space opera, for the past 60 years. If you're against any of that, I don't see how you're a real anime fan, or have the right to gatekeep anyone. But these guys have lost the plot so bad they've convinced themselves that all anime is just Kaleideliner Prisma all lonely fan service all the time. Story? What are you talking about? You watch anime for the story? And the fan service is just like a bonus? Are you fucking retarded? Oh, but actually, Yuri is apparently woke now, so we can't like Ilya anymore. Which also means no more Hyperdimension Neptune, or Madoka Magica, or Blue Archive.
Politics, how tiresome.
You see how when someone attacks your hobby, the worst thing you can do is play into the role aunties assigned for you and become exactly what gatekeeping was meant to prevent? A secondary who only cares for certain aspects of the hobby, disregarding the parts deemed dirty, wearing the cool parts for the fashion to get a Twitter Blue payout, or just increase your social status with teenagers online. Instead of holding the gate, you allowed them to take ground and claim a bunch of shows. This show's woke now, this one's woke too. Wow, what powerful gatekeeping. Yep, it's the worst fucking strategy imaginable. And sometimes I see VTubers replying to or making videos with tweets from these accounts, talking about gatekeeping anime or games or whatever, but they're not ready to talk about how VTubing has just become another way for boring e-girls to buy their way to some new tits and get some free views without doxing their face. There you go, you got some vaguely political takes out of me in a video about a gacha game. Okay, that rant is over. Back to the types of replies you see under Blue Archive tweets. The opposite side of the spectrum when Yuri's posted is gonna be something like this, which is obviously also stupid and cringe. I don't like posts like this either, it's just another type of tourist. The last type of reply you get is something like this. I have to make this about sex with kids, I just have to. Oh, from the Philippines, are we? Uh-huh. I get that this is supposed to be like, haha, so based, like that's his thing, like he just replies with this catchphrase on every post. But I think it's important to just take a step back and understand this is not like some ironic joke. He actually does have a pregnancy fetish. If you look at the timing of his posts, you can tell that this guy is scrolling porn on Twitter all day, dusk to dawn, replying to everything from blacked porn to non-explicit artwork and cosplayers, which is just totally inappropriate. This is not haha funny so based. No, this is you need to log off because your fucking gray matter is actually going to start deteriorating soon from looking at so much porn. You should not be in a goon state 24/7. It is so not good for you. Anyway, the reason I have to bring up the demographics is because other people try to do it first and they're just so wrong. Blaming things on Western fandoms when they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. The cope is embarrassing to witness. Look, I just care about my game and my fandom. I know it's a meme to say this, but Blue Archive is a wholesome game, and eventually it just becomes so jarring to play the actual game and then look towards the global side of the fandom, and it's like the exact opposite in every way, and then see them cope that they're replicating the base Nihonjin when you know that the JP community is so different. I will say, I'm not sure America has contributed much of anything to the community, despite being ahead of Indonesia in the demographics. All of the best content creators are some kind of Asian. There could be a reason for that. It's probably more viable to start a YouTube career than get an actual job in some countries like Indonesia. And I think Americans are generally more self-centered, so rather than create videos out of love for another IP, we start VTuber channels and try to build cults of personality. There's some self-reflection in there. So let's end on this. What's my stance on gatekeeping now? I've always been super pro gatekeeping because I believed fandoms should be a place to safely discuss your hyperfixations in detail with other like-minded autists. And I hated when normies would come over and water it down. Like how VTubers went from something that appealed to otaku to just being another skin suit for boring e-whores. But Blue Archive has really shown me how naive I was, that I never foresaw that the entire idea could be subverted into a complete inversion of what the original goal was, bringing you to an even worse spot than what you originally feared. It's not enough to simply say that I'm pro gatekeeping anymore, because on what basis? And then once you start adding details and caveats, people just turn their brains off, because it's easier to resort to groupthink, and at that point it just feels pointless to even try to be nuanced. Humans can't be trusted to behave themselves or not twist the rules in their own interest. I also think it's important to note that the people who are most vocal about gatekeeping on either side of the issue are people who produce nothing. It's never some widely respected or talented individual or developer or a writer or anyone important really. It's always just some terminally online angry tweeter who does nothing but drop lowest common denominator engagement bait slop. People who actually make things are just happy for people to enjoy them. They're not concerned with fandom drama. They're too busy being productive. If they're forced to intervene, the best thing they can do is tell the community to keep discussion focused on the game or series itself. Which is the right answer. It's all I care about.
Praise him, Lord Jesus. They don't understand the things I say on Twitter. Praise him, Lord Jesus.
I get it. It's because it's a Yuri art. Homosexuality is a Jewish psyop. I learned that on YouTube. But actually, so is age of consent and women's rights. If it weren't for the fucking Jews, I would have a child sex slave right now. I want to be like the American elite. I want to go to the island. The Jews are trying to keep me from my rightful cunny. Lord, smite them down. Wait a second. Waifu games and gooning are also Jewish psyops, meant to drain young Aryans of their vril and keep them complacent. But my waifus, my Hina-chan,